Well, as you've gathered, I was here in Durham a long time ago. I went for my interview 50 years ago this December, so it is an awful long time. But while I was at Durham, and it's funny how Durham stimulates this in people, because we've heard this already today, it struck me that if mainstream business could be moved towards more social and ethical objectives, it could be a massive force for positive change. This was long before, well, sometime before corporate social responsibility was all the rage. So most of my working life, and here are a few examples of the things that I've started, most of my working life has been involved in analysing and encouraging that to happen, and in setting up businesses that will help people spend, save, or work in ways that promote ethically driven ideas. I now work mostly in Europe. I concentrate mainly on energy issues. And last month I had the opportunity to personally present part of what you're going to hear now to energy ministers from 30 European countries at their meeting in Athens. The problem was that I only had 4 minutes. And they really wanted to talk about something else, like energy security in Ukraine. But at least they listened. Now, they heard the basics, but I'm afraid you're going to get the longer 14-minute version now. So, here is one fact that you probably didn't know about energy. There are thousands of huge fires burning around the world right now. They are on every continent, and some have been alight for more than 6,000 years. Together, they account for 3% of the world's output of carbon dioxide. They are fires in underground coal seams. All that energy going to waste. It's actually enough energy to power the UK day in, day out. Energy is life. Okay, there's more to life than just energy, but without energy, there is no life. And you could also argue that with too much energy, there will also be no life. Using energy sensibly is really essential, but we now have several energy-related problems, and the only way that we can solve them is by doing it together. Over the last 200 years or so, our use of energy has increased by about 400% per capita. It doesn't sound too bad, does it, until you look a little deeper, because in the last 200 years, world population has increased by 700%. And that means that we're now using 30 times as much energy as we did then. And this also wouldn't be a problem if we weren't getting 80% of it from fossil fuels. Energy that's been stored as hydrocarbons for millions of years and which we are now splurging like there's no tomorrow. Well, okay, let's get this straight. The International Energy Agency, which is the world's most authoritative body on energy futures, says we're going to be getting 63% to 80% of our energy from fossil fuels in 20 years' time. Put simply, this is likely to mean climate catastrophe. And also a massive impact on human health. I tend not to believe anyone who says they know the answer, whether it's renewables, whether it's third-generation biofuels, or even a simple lifestyle for the world's population. It's not that we don't have the technical capacity. It's just that experience has shown that we don't have the will. There are lots of things that we can do, but not enough of us are doing enough of them. And I've been asking myself why, when it's certain, it's absolutely certain that we're going to have to go through a major energy transition in the near future. Now, most people don't know about the underground coal fires. But even if they did, there would be nothing that they could do about it. We can't put these fires out. But there are plenty of things we can do about energy transition. I'm not going to give you a list because it would be too long. And what's right for you wouldn't be right for someone else. What I'm offering is a simple, big idea. I want everybody to talk about energy. In the cafe, in the classroom, in the kitchen, the club, at work, at home, even on holiday. It's as important as food, it's more important than football, and it's the key to what sort of future we're going to have. Now, I found that the EU is actually a good place to develop this sort of conversation about energy, this European energy dialogue, and that's why I was talking to the European energy ministers. We started it all with the Industrial Revolution. We produce every sort of energy, and we do, in Europe, try to use it more efficiently than anywhere else. And we actually have some great ideas that we're developing, like nuclear fusion, like carbon capture and storage, smart grids, and so on. We're trying to take a lead in reducing our CO2 emissions. We have the potential to link up our power supplies across Europe to make everything work better. It will require, in the next 10 years, a trillion euros of investment to make that happen, but it is possible. We can move power from the windy north to the sunny south, and we can move solar power up to the north. All this will take massive resources, massive will. It's all possible. And it's vital because we're dependent for half of our energy on the rest of the world, on coal, on oil and gas imports. And overall, our carbon footprint over the last 2 years has actually started to get bigger rather than reduce. So what good will talking about all this do? Well, have you noticed that energy is one of those areas, one of those many areas where politicians tend to follow rather than to lead? And public opinion is vital. Politicians ignore it at their peril. We had a powerful example of this with the European elections last month. A very significant minority seemed disenchanted. And a majority, 57%, acted as if they were disenfranchised. They just didn't bother to vote at all. It's a sort of like Yeats's poem, you know, things fall apart, the centre cannot hold. And if the centre isn't solid, then people drift to the fringes. We know that people are also disenchanted with their energy bills. They feel that they are being manipulated by big energy companies. They don't trust them. And they don't trust the governments who are meant to regulate them. So in our democracies, the consumer as citizen and as a voter has the power to support governments or to change them. And in nearly every country, energy is an issue of great public unease and of political sensitivity. It presses 3 buttons of economic, social, and environmental concern. But make no mistake, there are lots of conflicts and trade-offs to be made. We know, for example, that ensuring reliability of supply and access for all and affordability for those in energy poverty, now 20 million households across Europe, will involve very significant cost implications. Similarly, the transition to a low-carbon energy system will mean quite substantial extra short and medium-term costs. It's not going to be easy. So if consumers, if they are to use the power of their vote responsibly, need a clear understanding of the parameters of energy policy, and this really is a big challenge. I said that people feel as if they're being manipulated by energy companies, and yet it's also becoming a very personal thing. I don't know if you noticed, but the way we interact with energy is actually subtly changing. Now, some of us here almost certainly will be energy producers. Solar panels, probably. I got some on my roof at home. Some of us will have smart meters. Some of us will have changed our electricity or gas supplier recently. Some of us will have thought perhaps about an electric car, home insulation, new boiler, cycling to work, food miles, changing our CFLs for LEDs. There are lots of things that we are now engaging with as individuals on the energy front. Lots more opportunities than there were 20, 30 years ago. So we don't have to be energy puppets. New initiatives are springing up. Let me go back to my beginnings. When the Fair Trade Foundation was established, sales of fairly traded products in the UK was less than 20 million. Today, in the UK, it is around 2 billion. And that's just in 20 years. And this brand is widely recognized across Europe and, in fact, in many parts of the world. And it sets a model for others to follow. It shows what a social brand can do. And this has spread across churches, schools, universities, towns, countries even, with Wales becoming the first fair trade nation. So this energy dialogue itself needs to become a trusted social brand. That's the idea. The fair trade mark is an example of a European-wide recognized and trusted social brand delivering societal benefits. And the essential features of this energy dialogue will be trust, independence, reliability, and a foundation in clear social and ethical principles, and dealing with the whole energy system. And although this energy dialogue will not be selling a product, but a process, it will be a process that can use similar techniques of building trust and confidence and establishing best practice and conveying a message, and it's a message that leads to action, and it's a sort of action that each of us can actually take. Okay, we're at the beginning of a really major energy transition. Things will be very different in 30 years' time. And it's going to take place during the rest of this century. Most people are not aware of this. Most countries do not have a proper framework in place for a citizen-stakeholder dialogue to make this happen. And this really has to be done at an international level. One country can't do it on its own. Unless energy policy contains societal values and principles way above the purely scientific and technological, it has little chance of implementation. If we can raise the level of debate and understanding among the general public, it will give policymakers, the politicians themselves, greater confidence in making long-term decisions. They need to make long-term decisions because the investment cycle in energy, typical plant, typical infrastructure, is 40 years. So you have to think 40 years ahead. You tell me a politician that thinks that far ahead at the moment. So we're getting a lot of short-term decisions at the moment. And we're getting those short-term decisions because politicians can't be confident that they'll get backup from their electorate. Okay, so we need consumers to creatively play their own part in stimulating and supporting this political thrust and in acting themselves. And each person is going to do it differently. It will really depend on their circumstances, on their country, on their lifestyle, and so on. The energy dialogue will need to involve specialist everyday knowledge. It's going to involve the big NGOs, big energy suppliers, school curriculum, national media, all types of new social media, grassroots discussion, local authorities, parish councils, business-to-business debates. We need to get energy redefined as an essential social issue, and we need to get it talked about absolutely everywhere. So, this energy dialogue will create large-scale public awareness across Europe. It'll offer support to every other form of public engagement and a significant European coordinating role. It's really an extensive hearts and minds campaign, which is needed, I think, now more than ever. Pushing the EU here is positive because it's about a Europe that can deliver, that needs to deliver, that has to deliver, and has to do it together. It's the opposite of a big, bossy, interfering Brussels, because it actually puts public engagement first. At a time when confidence is low in both politicians and the energy industry, it offers a way forward. It shows how working with each other in the EU rather than leaving it is important. So building trust and confidence is the key. My personal view is that there are just really two issues, critical issues in this energy debate. We have to find a way of dealing with the impact of energy prices on individuals and on business, and that is really becoming a big issue. And we have to move to a low-carbon energy future to reduce the impact of climate change. We must reconcile the challenges that these two issues present us with. I have some suggestions, but I don't have the answers. But I'm confident that between us all, we do have those answers. And we have to seize this opportunity to make our own energy future, and in effect, the future of our planet, a matter of constructive discussion and decisive action for everyone in the energy chain. And that, of course, is